What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in for another video. My name is Tristan Harris, and I want to talk about the crazy things I used to say when I was a preacher. Like, comment, and subscribe. And now, let's get right to it. The line that people repeat over and over and over: God is good all the time, and all the time God is good, is a total myth. That's a lie. That is not true at all. And you have our culture embracing that, saying it's just a Christianese. It's something, it's one thing that we tell ourselves and we tell one another to make it seem as if the God we serve is good at all times. At all times mean there is never a moment in time, space, and history that our God is not good. And that's just not true. You got Christian writers writing songs that saying that he's a good father. Well, how can this God be so good when history and the Bible shows us and points to show that God is not good all the time at all? Let's go back early. Let's look early in the book of Genesis. What God told Noah: hey, Noah, listen, I'm about to take everybody out by flood. You need to build a boat. Tell them about it. Build a boat, and I'm about to take out women, men, children, babies, old people, young, everybody's going to be done. But you and your family, I'm going to keep safe. How is God good? All the time? How? See, these things, especially in the African church, we just tell ourselves because they sound good. But when you look in the book, it just don't make no sense. How can this person who's massacring people be good? How is it that you can tell Joshua, hey, take over the land and murder them all, execute them, take them out? Straight genocide. He told Saul, hey, Saul, when you take over them, leave nobody alive. How is this God good? How can you even say that when I'm reading the stories, and from my perspective, I see the monstrosities, the genocide that's done by way of God? And we can go through all throughout the book. There are many instances you can see and point to that, man, God did some shady stuff. So how are you good all the time if you're doing shady stuff? If you're giving hits out on people, if you're saying destroy them because they're wicked, if you're saying, you know what, take over their land because I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give you houses you didn't build, wells you didn't dig. I'm going to give all that to you. A land flowing with milk and honey. You just taking and just stealing and confiscating stuff and just giving it to other people. How is God good? If we had a person like that walking the earth today doing that and doing so many things like that, we'll say lock them up. But because it's our God of choice, we defend or we mentally justify the actions of a God like that. And we say, you know what? God had a plan. We just don't understand it. His ways is higher than our ways. Or we say something that will justify us knowing in morally and humanity, we say to ourselves, yeah, that was some shady stuff. But we won't, and we can't admit that because it's our God of choice. See, when it's our God of choice, we defend the actions of that. We justify it and say, you know what? He had a reason. Or we say those people or those incidents were evil and he needed to wipe them out and they deserved it. You see the thinking that we do to ourselves. We make excuses to justify a behavior of a Bible God because we can't come to terms with the fact that, you know what, yeah, that was messed up. I talk to many Christians today all the time, and they always tell me, you know what, he had a reason. What reason do you have to annihilate a whole group of people? What reason do you have to come into the land of somebody and say, you know what, I'm taking it. I'm going to confiscate it and give it to this person? What reason? See, when you read the same stories that I read, I begin to question what the hell is going on. Clearly to me, this God is not good all the time. And all the time, this God ain't good. That's just some stories, and Jesus is no better, in my opinion, because Jesus said some crazy stuff to women. You know, when she said, about wanting the crumbs, and he said he don't give the children's bread to dogs. And I'm like, wow. But back in that time, women was lower. Women was lower than in class and lower in prestige. They wasn't valued and viewed as valuable in a sense. So it's like, wow. So when you read the book, I ask again the question, how is God good? How can you look and say, you know what, this God is good all the time? There is never a moment that I'm suspect on his goodness. Come on. Let's be honest and real. If you know somebody like that, you like, yeah, this cat foul. Yeah, it's something shady about him. He's shady. We would identify people that we work with, people that are in our families, people that we know or heard of or what's on the news, and we would identify that and say, yep, that's shady. But when we read the stories in the book, we justify it. It's almost like we just whoop, and we make excuses and perform to say, you know what, it was justified. But to me, might doesn't equal right. It's like God was a mob boss. He was telling people what he was going to do. He was giving out hits, and he was just taking people out. Bow or get your knee broke. So how is he good? So then I look at life and I look at real life, right? Real life history, right? When you look at events in history that happen. Now, if this God is all powerful, all knowing, he know everything, and he everywhere at all times, how is it? This is what gets me. Is he good all the time? And all the time he's good, but he watched people get burned at the stake over disputes about theology in this book interpretation and that book interpretation, or heretics, or you know what, they were witches. People burned at the stake. Now, if he's everywhere at all time, he was right there. And if he knows everything, he's all knowing, he knew that was going to happen and didn't say nothing. So I'm saying to myself, how is this God good, but he keep a quiet, he don't speak about what's going on. He don't stop what's going on. So to me, it's like you aiding and abetting. You complicit. You cool with all this. Like the Crusades, according to the Catholic Church, that was approved by God because they needed to rid the land of heathens, and many people died in bloodshed for years, all in the name of God. And I can see Christians saying, you know what? I hear Christians' excuses now. They're going to be like, oh, well, that was man. God didn't tell him to do that. But if he's all knowing and he knew it was going to happen, and he's all powerful and he's everywhere at all time, and he could have stopped it and intervened, right? At any moment, but he didn't. See, that's problematic. Because see, when you read the Bible and stories, when Isaiah came to Hezekiah and told him, hey, you finna die, get your house in order. And he turned it toward the wall and prayed. And then Isaiah went back because God told him, you know what? Add some years to his life. He intervened there. But how is it in real life? When these things happen, from the Holocaust to slavery, that God don't say nothing. God don't even step in. So again, I ask the question, how is God good all the time, and how all the time God is good? How is it in slavery, the person who's enslaved is praying to the same God that enslaved them? How does that make sense? And how is it God, knowing all this information, doesn't do a thing? It's amazing. That's why I say that's a lie. The whole God is good all the time. Total lie. We just tell ourselves that because of church tradition, because that's what we were raised in, that's what we were brought up in. That's what we know. And Big Mom and them said it, Grandma and them said it, my daddy and them said it, my mom and them said it. So I repeated down a generation. But sometimes you got to stop and say, wait a minute, man. That ain't even true. Like, there's problems with this. Like, there are seriously issues with this. And this is what I don't get. How is it we can identify different things that are wrong with human to human in our relationships every day, but we can't see the issues in the text about a God that we say we believe and follow? It's almost like our minds is shut off to anything that will question and anything that will say, wait a minute, something ain't right here. And that's why I be wanting to make these videos, to get people to think more. Think. Because for so long, many of us, we just take it for face value and we go along with it and we ride along with it. But in the back of our minds, we'd be looking like, you know what? Yeah, something ain't right. Something ain't right about this. So the notion that God is good all the time and all the time God is good, it's not true. It's not. You can look throughout history. Look at 4 years, 4 years ago in COVID. People were dropping, dying. God never intervened. He knew everything, right? He knew COVID was coming. He got all power. That's what everybody says. He's omnipotent. And he's everywhere at all times. So he's just watching bodies drop. People get sick. People on respirators. People come out. Where's God? Churches getting shut down. Businesses still open. But we got to shut down the churches. Because obviously God can't do nothing if you don't meet in the building. But what happened to the point of where 2 or 3 are gathered? Come on, y'all. That's why I said we got to start looking at this like, wait a minute. Something ain't right. And that's the whole point. Because it's like, if you don't look at this, you begin to just be like, oh, okay, yeah, then it's true. But the more you dig, you start to see that the claims don't have any truth to them. They just church tradition that we tell ourselves, and we've been telling ourselves for hundreds of years. That's the whole thing. So when you look at what happens in the Bible, done by God, instructed by God, allowed by God on his watch, and you see what happens in our everyday life, and then you can't just say, oh, it's not there. No, the reality is it is there. You can choose not to see it if you want, but that's fine. But the reality is it is there. Where is this God? How is he good at? He's not stopping or interacting or interceding or intervening in nothing. Absolutely nothing. So how is he good all the time? And that's what got me, because that just don't make sense. That's a false statement. It don't make any sense when you think about it. And that's why I said, you know what? No, that's a lie. That whole statement's a lie. So for me, looking back on everything, especially as a former preacher, you get in the pulpit every Sunday and preach that. All you got to do is say one line and the congregation will repeat it. That's how programmed we get. That's how programmed I was. You see what I'm saying? But when you step back, you're like, wait a minute, man. All the stuff that went on? Come on. And you can if you want to, but we can't blame the card of, oh, that's the devil. So what you're saying is the devil's more powerful than your God? That's what I'm saying. Which one is it? Like, which one is it? What are we doing? You can't say on one hand, God is all powerful and he's in control of everything. Matter of fact, I think it's Colossians that say everything was created by him, and by him nothing was made. So if he control everything, is in all power of everything, you can't blame this devil that he created and put the scapegoat on him and say, oh, well, that's the devil. He's the prince of this world, the power, the principality of this world. Like, no, you can't do that. You can't. Because if that's the case, then why pray about things? Why come in agreement, 2 and 3 in agreement? Why pray to change things? You can't give that escape and that excuse. At some point, you have to deal with the fact, you know what? Maybe what I was taught, with God is good all the time and all the time God is good, is just not true. You got to come and face that reality. That's just what we tell ourselves. That's just the tradition of the church. But as far as truth to it, no, there's no truth to it at all. All the time? I just brought up examples that he's not. From the book, from real life, what more we need? All all the time? No, absolutely not. So that's just something I want to just, come on and share about because I just want people to think more. Just think about it. Think about it. And I think that's what's happening. A lot of people is coming up, especially the younger generation, the 20s and the 30s. They're coming up and they're thinking more. And they saying, you know what? This don't make no sense at all. And that's what we want for people to question. Questioning is good. If you don't understand something, you're told to ask questions. So the notion of you can't question God, you can. That comes from people that was just indoctrinated to the point where the fear of this God was instilled so much where they told their kids and their kids and their kids not to question. That's it. So one thing I want us to do, think more. Think about it. Ask the questions and pursue the truth of it. Because a lot of times we repeat stuff that's just cliches. It's not true. And I think this is one of those things. God is good all the time is not true at all.